Poppies have got to be one of my favourite flowers, and I've taken this bunch through Camera Raw. We've now opened it into Photoshop as a smart object. Looking at it thinking nice picture, but, and I hate it when I think nice picture, but it needs something else, and I didn't want to give it a painterly effect. I wanted to try something that was going to be a little bit different, and I thought of one of my favourite plugins, and I think that's going to provide us with the answer. Now, the first thing you'll notice, I've got this as a smart object. It took it through Camera Raw, opened it into Photoshop as a smart object. If you've got a background layer, just simply right click, drop down to convert to smart object. You can also come up to filter. You can drop down to convert to smart filter. This is grayed out. They are both exactly the same thing. While we're here, we're going to drop down. This is my favorite plugin, my Nick collection, and it's this one here we're going to take a look at using. It's the Analogs Efex Pro 2. Clicking on this. Now, when it first came out, I must be honest, I wasn't that much of a fan of it, but since version 2, yes, it's got some interesting new. If I just move it into the position, we could see what it's got interesting and new, and there it is. When you first look at it, you think, right, next. But click on some of these. What we've actually got, we've got presets down on this side, and there's some really interesting presets here. Now, this is coming under the classic camera. You may have noticed as well the way this panel over here on the right hand side changes as we click on some of the options. Now, as I said, this comes under the classic camera. Come to this little arrow and you have got a list of tools. Now, the tools are the adjustments that you can use. Now, you can use these under the build a camera, the kit camera, and you can create some really interesting effects. But what they've also done is they've grouped them together. They called it the tools combination or tool combination, and they've given it a name like classic camera. Work your way through, and it's as I was going through these and I thought toy camera, that sounds good. Click on this and you'll see the way it all changes here. Looks good. Then I came across this one. I thought multi-lens, that's different. And if we click on the top one here, number 1, and I thought, wow. Now that could be the answer to the way of presenting this picture. Starting off with just the basic ones, I've loaded this, and what have we got? We have got basic adjustment, we got lens distortion, we got dirt and scratches, got film type, and the multi-lens itself. So let's take a look. We're going to start off with multi-lens. Now, what does this do? We've got the vertical, we got horizontal, we got 4 on the vertical, we've even got 4 on the horizontal, and we've got, there it is, 2 side by side. Great stuff, giving us the 4. Let's come back to this first one. I'm going to use this particular one for this image. Bring your cursor across. As you bring your cursor across, you'll notice you get something very similar to the transform tool. Now, the interesting part with this is I know this image here was the top right hand corner. So if we click down, you can see there's the full image. We can just swipe across it. But I'm going to make this larger. I'm going to take it up to something like that area there. Now, dropping it down, click, so we're going to drop it down, drag it down. Just want to get my little buttercups in as well at the very top of the image. That looks pretty good. Right, how about this one in the center? Now, that looks quite good where it is. Just moving it across, you notice the way we can bring in those purple poppies and the poppies there. So let's make this just a little bit bigger. It's going to be a bit tight, so we're going to rotate this round as well into that area, and now perhaps just drag it back, because I'd like to position this more central so we can see the whole poppy, something like that there. Right, so now bring in this one over, and what we can do is we can come in, we can make this much bigger, so you can drag it up in size, you can move it over, and perhaps position in that one there. How about that? It's a starting position. We can come back, we can make any changes. While we're here, the one thing that I can see with this image, it's applied a vignette 70%. I'm going to double click. That's going to take it back to the default setting of 35%. I want to see the picture as it is. Right, the reason why I want to see the picture as it is, so we can come in and we can make any adjustments. Starting off with the basic panel. Detail extraction, bringing this up. It's a bit like the clarity slider in Photoshop. You can bring it back and forth and you can see the way it's bringing out the detail. I'm going to double click. I'm going to take it back to 0. I don't want any sort of clarity with this. I don't want any extraction. That looks good like that. Contrast, let's double click. I'm going to take that back to 0. Saturation, -15. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You can take it up, you can drop it down, perhaps not as much as that. Minus 15 there was pretty good. I'll tell you what, let's go down to minus 20. Right, great stuff. Now, Nick filters, control points. They've got to be, haven't they? Love using these. So clicking on the control points, we're going to have a little bit of fun and games with this, but don't worry, it will be worth it, hopefully. Clicking on this control point, the add a control point or add control point, I'm going to click down on this poppy here. But is it really here? No, I don't think it is. If we click on this little button, it's now going to change it to the black and white. This is what I mean. It's moved. It's now over here. This is, don't forget, because we've repositioned things using this multi-lens business, it has moved things around, so we do have to come in, we have to make adjustments. Now the brighter the whiter the area, the more the effect will notice. So let's just pull this up. Going to bring it through, so we've got a few little ones coming through here as well. That looks pretty good. Going to switch this off, just untick the box, will take us back to the original. You see I'm not that far out, and if we just drop down to the brightness, if we click on this, there it is, we can just make it a bit brighter, a bit darker, leave it something like that. Going to come down, saturation. Yes, we're going to take the saturation up into that area there, looks pretty good. DE, detail extraction, let's take that up a little bit as well. Okay, looking pretty good like that. I'm going to come down to these little icons, these little double circles. We are going to click on this. We've now duplicated it. Going to lift it up and place it in this position here, which, as we all know, is not going to be there. So let's click on this little button. This is where we've now got to come across, track it down. I think it's going to be these here, because don't forget, it's moved things around. I just happened to notice the way the car park, which is the gravel bit you can see at the top there. Yeah, they're creating a car park and they've built up this huge bank and they've put in some wild poppy seeds. Fantastic. Right, so there it is. This will now, if I come in and come to brightness, if we take a look, and you can see there is our poppy in the top left hand corner, brightening up nicely. It's a bit of a weird way of working, but yeah, coming in, and something like that there would do pretty good. Okay, let's put in one more. So I'm just going to duplicate this by clicking on the double circles. We're going to drop it down. I'm going to go for these big purple poppies here, and right, let's see if we can find these. Clicking on it, and if we just move this across, there they are there. So it sometimes can be a little bit difficult, but you can usually find them lurking around somewhere, so don't worry too much about it. Dropping it down a little bit, and let's just untick all the boxes so we can see exactly how we're working. And there's our saturation. You'll notice it's come through nice and colourful there, so the saturation looks pretty good like that. And if we just switch them off, you can see there's the before, there's the after. We've just added a nice little splash of colour to it. Right, let's pop down to lens distortion. What have we got with lens distortion? Well, we have got barrel distortion, and we've got pincushion distortion. Not so sure I like the pincushion distortion. Let's go for the barrel distortion. Do we need this? Let's just pull it back a little bit. Perhaps something like that there, just a slight amount. You don't even have to have it. If you don't want it, just simply untick the box. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think that could add to it, so we'll leave it in for now. Dropping down dirt and scratches. As we click on this one, you'll notice the one before actually closes up. We're on dust and lint. We have a choice. We've got a drop down menu. Let's go for scratches, and if we drop down, some of the more ambitious scratches are these here, and yes, that's very ambitious, isn't it? But bring your cursor out. You get this little full pointy arrow thing, which is a little grab handle. You can move this around, and as you move it around, you get a little bit of an idea. I like the texture this is giving to the image. Strength of minus 100. Let's take it up to, and you can see as we go to 100, the scratches turn from white through to black. Nifty, eh? Right, so let's come into this sort of amount here. That looks pretty good like that. So just dropping it into that area there. Quite like the way this is working. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Just clicking on it takes a little while to load, but once they've loaded, you can actually go between one and the other quite quickly and easily. I'm going to take it down to the negative area here that we had, which is round about that position, and just bring it down. And there are our scratches, looking pretty good like that. Don't forget, this is all completely adjustable. Dropping down to film type, this is where the fun can really begin. We're under warm. Yes, you can feel the heat from here. Turning it up a couple of degrees and you can see the way we can change the color in the picture. So it's well worth clicking on all of these and seeing which one suits the picture you're working with. I said we're on warm. You've also got cool. Now my favorite one has to be this one here, the Glacier number 2, but it's also worth trying some of the others and you can see the various effects we've got. Let's go back to you've got subtle as well. So there's some subtle ones. Fundy 2, that's another good one, and this one here, it's well worth trying them. I'm going to come back to cool and Glacier 2. I quite like the way the colours work with this, and you can see the way we're changing it as we're working our way through. I think we'll leave it like this for the moment. We're going to come down to the neutral fade. We can fade it, or we can bring it back to neutral. It takes a few seconds for it to actually drop into place. Double click takes us back to the default setting, and it's worth trying the strength as well. I quite like that, like the way this is working now. And coming down, we got the grain per pixel 470, like that. We got soft and hard, bringing it up. That's hard. Right, double clicking, taking it back, and soft. Okay, right, double clicking, back we go. And let's just have a look at our multi-lens. This is where we started off. Now we're using the multi-lens. We can still change the various positions. You can still juggle them around if you want to. But I'm going to come back to this one here. Now this is using the border color of white. You can change it to black. You can have narrow. You can have wide. You can have thin. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to go with black for the moment. Just going to pull it to that sort of area there. Looks pretty good. You can also switch it off so you don't even have to have the borders showing. Quite like the effect that this has. Let's just come back to black for the moment. Vignette, don't forget we turned that off, so let's just bring it in just a touch or two like that's there. We got variation strength. Now that sounds really interesting, doesn't it? And you can see the way we can change the lighting in various parts of the panel. That's on variation 1. Let's have a look at 2. So we got 2 here. We can move this up. We can brighten that center panel up nicely. Coming through, that's dimming down center panel, and using the variation we can bring that and change the way the lighting's working. Really nicely thought out. So I think with this it's allowing us to come in and make changes like this. And number 5, right, and let's just take a look at this. Sort of thing you can change, you can adjust. Don't forget, when we started off, this was a smart object, a smart filter, so we can come in, we can make adjustments even after we've changed it. Just dropping it down, bringing through my little yellow buttercups, bless them, at the top corner there. That looks pretty good like this. Let's try it a little bit larger, like that, and dropping it down a touch or two. Great stuff. There it is. So the whole thing is completely adjustable. I'm just going to come back to my dirt and scratches. I'm going to take my dirt and scratches just up a little bit more into that area there. Let's try it down in the dark. Yeah, gotta be dark, isn't it? Just suddenly notice it goes much better as well with the black border. So that'll do. We're going to click OK to that. This is now going to rush its way through. It's now saving the image before it opens it into Photoshop. And there it is. You may have noticed that is what we started off with. As I said, nice picture, but we've now transformed it to something like this. Well worth a try. Don't forget, you can double click on the Analogs Effect Pro 2. This is going to reopen it. If you created that smart object, that smart filter, it's going to reopen it back into Analogs Effect Pro 2. There it is. There's the changes we made. Tell you what, how about trying it without a border? We're going to click OK to that. You can make any changes, any adjustments you want to make to it, but the most thing of all, just have a bit of fun, see what you come up with. But go on, give it a try. Until the next time, it is happy imaging, and take care.